Good afternoon. Thank you so much. I see some people are coming into the room, so we'll give it just a minute for everyone to come into the room, and then we will start the webinar. And I want to say thank you all so much for joining us today. This is meant to be a bit of an discussion, so it's not going to be so formal. We're going to provide you with some information. I think the agenda for today's meeting will provide you the agenda. Then we're going to provide you some information about Hill Day. And then we want to open it up to any questions that you may have for us so that we can provide any answers to them. But first, Christy, you can go to the first slide. As you can see on the screen, I'm Brandy. And I wanted to share with you quickly SFA's mission statement. So why is SFA hosting a Sarcoma Hill Day? Well, as you can see from our mission statement, I highlighted it in red, advocating on behalf of the community. SFA has a long history in doing since our inception 25 years ago in working on public policy issues. Very early on, we worked on changing regulatory pathways for drug approvals. We also worked very closely in increasing research funding through the government for sarcoma research and many other areas that SFA has been involved in since inception and continues to be involved in. But we thought that it was time to have a day just to focus on sarcoma and have it be during July, Sarcoma Awareness Month. So we'll get more into that, but I just wanted to share with you our mission statement and also why SFA has public policy as one of the pillars of our organization. Christy, you can go to the next slide. So the agenda for the webinar today, as I said, it's going to be very conversational. We just wanted to provide an update to folks who may be interested in Hill Day. What is it? What are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? What does it entail? So we're just going to do a quick introduction, how people can participate, the meetings, what are we going to do in the meetings? What's the point? What's our topic? And then we're also going to talk a little bit about public policy priorities and how we want to work together as a community to collect public policy priorities. And then we'll have time for questions and discussion. And if you have a question, you can raise your hand. We will turn you off of mute and you can ask the question for the group. Or if you would rather, you can put it in the chat and we will read the question from the chat and we can answer it from there. So whatever you're most comfortable with, again, we want to make this conversational. So if you want to raise your hand, you can ask a question that way as well. Next slide, Christy. So just as an overview, we scheduled Hill Day for July 18th. We wanted it to be during Sarcoma Awareness Month. And then we also wanted to be in close proximity to the National Race to Cure Sarcoma, which is July 20th, and which will be held at the Lincoln Memorial. We launched the national race last year. It was the first year, but we did not launch it in conjunction with the Hill Day. This year, we are doing the Hill Day and the national race together. So for the people who are in DC, you can come for Hill Day and then stay for the race on Saturday. So for some of you on the call may have participated in a Hill Day before or participate in public policy efforts, and that's great. Some of you on the call may not have ever participated. So we're going to do a little bit of what is a Hill Day for those of you who are looking for information because maybe you've never participated before. And a Hill Day is really getting our community together, scheduling meetings with your state representatives, and having conversations with them and making them aware of sarcoma and the needs in the sarcoma community. So during COVID, a lot of those meetings happened, all of them happened virtually. We are looking at the possibility for people who cannot participate in person to maybe be able to host virtual meetings with the staffers and your members. Now, being in person is always better because, and this is a way for us to really get in front of the decision makers, share our story, share our challenges, share what our needs are, and be able to make those connections on the Hill and build those relationships. And it's very important for you as sarcoma community members to build those relationships with your members. And that's really what Hill Day allows us to do. And this Hill Day, a big goal of ours is to have our community to start building relationships with your members and with your staffers. So if we ever have things that we need to request for them, such as the resolution that we do every year, to be able to contact them either by phone or by email or set up a meeting and be able to share with them what's happening in the sarcoma community and what our priorities are. So why should you participate? Because there are a lot of groups that are out there doing public policy efforts on behalf of all cancer patients, rare cancer patients, pediatric patients, a lot of different groups. And SFA is involved with a lot of those groups, a lot of those coalitions, and we sign on to legislation, we sign on to letters, we support things. We've participated in Hill Days with other groups, but it's important for us as a community to get the unique needs for sarcoma patients in front of members that separates us a little bit different than under a bigger umbrella than rare cancers. A lot of rare cancers. There's a lot of rare diseases. There's a lot underneath the overall umbrella of cancer, but there are certain priorities that are very unique to sarcoma or that impact sarcoma patients maybe a little bit more than some other cancer or some other disease. So we thought it was time for us to bring the community together and really have this conversation on the Hill. And this also, very important, helps us to raise awareness about sarcoma and raise a level of here's what our unique needs are. And even if you're working on these things under the bigger cancer umbrella, here's an example from someone who's been affected by sarcoma and why this makes it even more important for you to focus on that. So what happens? Well, you have meetings, you go on the Hill, you make meetings with your representatives, your state representatives, and we're also going to have a program. So similar to a press conference, we're going to have a program where we're going to have speakers. We're going to invite members to come and them to speak. And then also we're going to invite survivors, caregivers, people who've been affected by sarcoma to come and speak as well. Again, to help us just raise that level of awareness for sarcoma. So that's kind of the overall perspective of Hill Day. Christy, you can go to the next slide. So how do you participate? If you're interested in participating, then you would have meetings, as I said, either in person or virtual. We're looking at the virtual option. A lot of offices are still doing it, and some are not. So we have to find that out, but you can also do it in person. And to participate, you just register. We have a registration page where you would register, and then you will get information. We'll get into more detail about this. You will get more information from us. We will have a whole plan for you on Hill Day, and we're also looking for team leaders. So you will not, and I want to say this up front, you will not have to go to meetings by yourself. We will pair you with people to go to meetings, even if they're not necessarily from your district, that's okay. The sarcoma story is the sarcoma story. So you will not have to go by yourself to all these meetings and find your way around the Hill. If you've never done it before, find your way around the Hill to your members' offices. You will have a team to go with. And so what we will also have are team leaders. So we will have leaders, say we have teams of 3, I'm just using that as an example. We'll have teams of an amount of people, and you will have one team leader that will carry all the packets of information, will know where all your meetings are, and will be able to help navigate and work very closely with SFA to be able to help everybody on that team get to all the meetings. We'll also have a photographer, so you'll be able to get pictures with your staffers or your member if you're able to meet your member. If you're interested in being a team leader, we will be sending out more information about that where you can sign up for that. We do need people to volunteer if you plan to come to Hill Day and be able to participate in person. Christy, next slide. So when we're on the Hill, this is where kind of the detailed information. We will have a message. So when we go on the Hill, I'll call it a packet of information. Everybody will give a packet of information. It will be information about sarcoma, information about the priorities that we have in the sarcoma community, and we will have an ask. So when you go, you would give them your story and tell them how you've been affected by sarcoma, and then we will have an ask for them, whether it's this year, we just want you to be aware of all the issues that sarcoma faces. Or it could be a piece of legislation we want them to support or move. It could be more research, government funding for research in sarcoma because we need more. So we will have an ask that you will specifically discuss while you're in your meetings, while telling your story, and you will leave that information with them. We will provide that information to you for your meetings. So all of that will be prepared and given to you. You don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, if I go to these meetings, what do I do? What do I say? We will prepare you for that. And that leads me to the preparation. We will help. We have a system. What do you call it, Cheryl? A software that helps you to, even if you don't even know who your representatives are. We have a system that will help you look up your representatives and also schedule your meetings. So you'll be able to schedule your meetings. If you need help scheduling meetings, SFA can help you schedule the meetings as well. But we have a software that makes all that very easy for you. You can also email them and let us know that you've scheduled the meeting. There's a lot of different ways we can do it, but we can help you schedule the meetings. And then SFA is also going to host additional webinars. So we wanted to host this webinar first to kind of say, okay, what is it? What are we doing? If I wanted to participate, how do I participate? And then once in a couple of weeks, we will host our first webinar on this is what we're doing. Here's the asks that we're doing. Here's all the detailed logistics. And here's all the information, and start really prepping people for what are we going to talk about at the meetings. Here's your team, all of that. So you will have all of that information before you come. So we'll have a couple of other webinars after this to fully prepare us for our day on the Hill, and to also provide you very detailed logistics information, because we will have a meeting space. We will have a room on the Hill, a meeting space where we can all gather. So if you're not in a meeting, you have a place to go, or you need to touch base, or you need something, we will have sort of a headquarters, is what I'll call it, on the Hill for that day as well. So you'll be able to come and meet there, and you'll know exactly where that is, how to get there. We'll also know where everybody who has meetings, you'll find out who your team is. You'll get all the detailed information leading up to Hill Day through webinars. And then we'll also be able to show you how to use Congress Plus to be able to schedule your meetings, and all of that information. So we will walk you through it step by step. Some of you, again, may have already done all this, and that's fine. Some of you may have not. So we'll go through all of it for those of you who may have not. And then for those of you who have, you'll be able to share with us some of the best practices that you have used and learned through your process of doing this. I call this an email canvas. One of the other things that we do for members where we may not have meetings, we may not have constituents in their district, or may not be able to get the meeting, we will do an email canvas, which means the packets of information that we are providing in our meetings, we will email out to every member on the Hill. So we will make sure that everybody gets our information and the information for our Hill Day, whether or not we're having specific meetings with them at all. So the Hill will have all the information that we want to share on our Hill Day, regardless of where we have meetings. And then, of course, I mentioned previously the program that we're going to have on the Hill. Senator Johnson, we're working already with Senator Johnson to get the resolution reintroduced in the Senate. We're also going to be working in the House to get the resolution for Sarcoma Awareness Month reintroduced in the House. So we are going to invite them to come and speak and announce the resolution for Sarcoma Awareness Month at the press conference. We will also have speakers, a survivor, as I mentioned, a caregiver, and a researcher. Really, the program is to help us raise even more awareness about the needs for the sarcoma community. So we will have a program, somewhat of a press conference there on the Hill that same day as well, that all of us who are there can participate in. And so that will be part of the day as well. But the main part of the Hill Day is really making those connections with your members, getting the meetings. And it's not just that one meeting. I don't want to stress that. It's not just that one meeting. It's really being able to start building that relationship. So there will be follow on from this Hill Day. So when you go to those meetings and you start building that relationship, we will also be sending out information to you to connect with your members, whether they are on recess, whether they are in their home districts and you want to get a meeting because we have something to tell them then. There's a lot of follow on to this. What we're using this Hill Day for is just to launch our sarcoma efforts with our members, whether they be in Washington, D.C., or whether they be at home locally. Christy, you can go to the next slide. And for public policy priorities, I want to talk about this a little bit more in depth because this is very important. There's a lot of issues that people affected by sarcoma face. We have had conversations, and again, as I mentioned, SFA works with a lot of groups on different public policy issues. So there are a lot of things that affect people who are affected by sarcoma that aren't specific to sarcoma. But there are things that are, as I mentioned previously, more important or rise to a higher level of significance in the sarcoma community. So what we are going to do is send out a survey to the community asking for different issues that are most important to you. What are the issues that are most important to you? So we can start building what the priorities are and what the legislative priorities are for the sarcoma community. We have a sarcoma public policy leadership committee that we've been working with, and we are going to be engaging in a legislative landscape. And that's really looking out there across the legislative field and saying, what are the legislative bills, issues out there that might affect the sarcoma community that we might raise to the level of importance and want to make sure we're watching or support or messaging about. So we're going to be engaging in that as well. And then we're going to take that information, and this is how we as a community are going to build our priorities. So when we go on the Hill, or we're messaging our members throughout the year, or we're taking action, we have our priorities that are developed by the community and that represents the community voice. We don't want this just to be, this is what SFA thinks the priorities are. We want to hear from the community. What are the issues that you face every day that we think are the most important things that we should be talking about when we go up to our members? And so we're going to do that in two ways. Also, there may be, and we found this, and on here you can see I have issues of telehealth, financial toxicity, and access to treatment. Why are they on here? These are things that come up quite often. Our medical advisory board has talked to us about telehealth. We talk internally about telehealth. Not only did telehealth come to the fore really during COVID, we've all continued to use it since then. And there are issues with being able to use telehealth. Now, because in the sarcoma community, we often encourage people diagnosed with sarcoma to go to a sarcoma center. And we know there are very large parts of the country that do not have a sarcoma center. So, or if you want to participate in a clinical trial, they're not open everywhere. So most of the time, people have to travel to participate in a clinical trial. Well, telehealth could really go far with having and helping people diagnosed with sarcoma and going through the sarcoma journey to have access to treatment options that they may not have had or may not be able to access for various reasons. And so telehealth is something that we've talked about internally that has come up across the board for a lot of diseases, especially rare diseases, and also with our medical advisory board. So telehealth is something that we're definitely, SFA is looking at and doing some research and finding out what's all happening in the space for telehealth, and what are the barriers, and what are the issues that we can really focus on to help advance that. I believe that sarcoma is a great example as to why we need more telehealth options right now. So that is something that we are really looking into. And obviously, financial toxicity. Financial toxicity, we actually just completed a survey for liposarcoma and the liposarcoma community. And of all the issues that cause them stress outside of physical issues, financial stress was the leading one. And we know this to be true for various reasons. Again, for access to treatment options, if you have to travel, or just what your insurance covers or doesn't, or in sarcoma, because we don't have very many FDA approved therapies, then is the treatment covered under insurance if I even have it? So there's a lot of issues that come along with financial toxicity that we're looking into as well. That is something that we're interested in learning from the community as well, is how are you affected by this? And is this an issue that rises to the top of our public policy priorities? And then, of course, the access to treatment. As we mentioned, getting to a sarcoma specialty center to be able to receive treatment. What does treatment look like in the community setting if I'm going to my local community oncologist or my local cancer center? So access to treatment, and also because, again, we don't have many FDA approved therapies, sometimes the treatment that patients are taking, because it's not approved for sarcoma, is challenging for patients to get. Whether the insurance doesn't want to cover it and they say no, or you have to ask for, you have to jump through a lot of hoops sometimes to really be able to get the access to treatment. So it's twofold. It's access to treatment, whether it be through insurance, or it's access to treatment just by being able to get to a sarcoma center as well. So those are three issues that have already sort of risen to the top, and something that SFA has been focused on for quite some time, in addition to obviously increased research funding. That's always going to be on the table because we know we need more than that. But these are three issues that have risen to the top of the priorities list. But again, we want to hear from the community. We want to hear from people affected by sarcoma. What are the issues you're facing? So when we really start taking these messages to our members, that we are truly representing the voice of the community. Next slide, Christy. So as I mentioned, this was a real quick snapshot, kind of high level discussion about Hill Day. We wanted to leave a lot of time for questions and discussion. Christy or Cheryl, I don't know if you have anything to add before I go into some of the questions we already have. Nope.
I don't think I need to add anything at the moment.
Okay.
We do already have some questions though.
Yeah, we do have some questions that need to be addressed.
Yeah. So I know one of the questions is, will future webinars be recorded in case you are unable to attend? Yes, they will. And if you register for Hill Day, you will be getting emails directly to you. So once you register, we'll take the registration list and we will be sending you information via email, through webinars. You'll hear from us through many different ways. But yes, future webinars will be recorded. Yes, and someone mentioned Congress in recess in July. We could set up in-district in-person meetings. Yes, you can. You can do that anytime. You can set up in-district meetings anytime. So yes, absolutely. And even if we do Hill Day in July, that does not mean we wouldn't still do in-district meetings. Those are as important as coming to the Hill, for sure. You can still do that as well. And there are times, and usually Congress goes in recess in August. Now it's election year, so it looks a little bit different this year because of the election year. But so I'll call it a normal year, Congress will be in recess in August, and we usually come up with a strategy on doing in-district meetings during August recess. So that is something that will definitely be a follow-on. we're looking at this year, July 18th, to be the launch of our community public policy efforts and really starting to focus on this and really starting to work again to build those relationships and raise the level of awareness about sarcoma. So this is just another, when we talk a lot about we need, and I know we all talk about this, we need more awareness about sarcoma. Well, this is a piece of that puzzle. This is a part of raising awareness. This is an audience that we need to raise awareness with. Let's see, what other question do we have? Are we looking for more senators to support the efforts? Yes. So if you're already working, I see that someone from Missouri, you're already working with someone. Absolutely. We want that relationship that you have is very, very important. So yes, we would want as many members to support our efforts and to help be champions. Because the other thing we're looking at that I didn't mention, the other thing that we're looking for is we are looking for members to be champions for sarcoma. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to identify champions for sarcoma on the Hill that can help us really not just raise awareness, but when we go to them with priorities, they're on our team and they're helping us to advance those priorities. So absolutely, if you have relationships, then we absolutely would want them to support that. And we want you to participate with us on advocacy, whether you can attend Hill Day in person or not. That is a connection that we would like to have, and absolutely.
Before you go to the next question, can everyone please use the question and answer chat as opposed to the regular meeting chat so that we can actually keep track of questions and not lose any? The meeting chat is a little harder to keep track of everything. Thanks.
So I'm going to answer one in the meeting chat and then I'll go to the Q&A. Okay, so the logistics and cost of getting to DC and staying there. The cost of getting here and staying is up to the individual. We are looking at potentially providing some monetary support. We're looking at that right now. We are looking at getting a hotel room block so that we'll have a hotel room block to make the cost of the hotel a little bit cheaper. But yes, the cost of getting here at this point would be up to the individual, but we are looking at potentially being able to offer scholarships. And we will let you know more about that as when people register. Let's see. Looks like we have one from Oregon. Will I be on the team to visit the whole Oregon delegation since we're smallish? Yes. So if you are, whatever state you're coming from, you will be on a team. If you are the only person from Oregon, we still will have you make as many Oregon meetings as we can get. So that means I may be from Kentucky and you may be from Oregon and we may be on the same team. That means you'll get to go to Oregon meetings and Kentucky meetings because we may have to merge teams. Now, if we have more than one Oregon person, it will just be Oregon people going to those meetings. So it depends on how many people from each state that we have and how we make the teams work. But if you're coming from one state, you don't necessarily just go to your own district and you're one representative, you will, and your two senators, you will go to as many meetings we can get in your state. And we will work with you. We will ask you to make those meetings if you're comfortable, or we will help schedule those meetings for you. And are we involving NCI? I'm not sure I understand the question. Is the question that we will be making meetings with NCI, or I'm not sure what that question means, but this is what I think it means. So I'll answer it. If I'm wrong, you can just retype in the Q&A and I can answer that for you. So the Hill Day meetings are just focused on the members on the Hill. So we may ask questions, we may have priorities or asks for NCI or something to do with NCI, but we will not be making meetings with NCI and they will not be participating in Hill Day. The Hill Day is really just for the members on the Hill. And someone asked, what is NCI? That's a National Cancer Institute.
Asking to be unmuted too, to clarify out loud.
Oh no, I was asking
Okay.
if,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
So if you have a question that you would like to ask out loud, you can also raise your hand using the raise your hand function, or just ask if you'd like to ask a question and I can unmute you. So that's also an option.
And I'm interested to know how many of you on the call have ever participated in a Hill Day before. And it's okay if you haven't. I'm just interested to know if any of you have. Also, if any of you would be interested in team leader, you can add that to the chat as well, and we can look at that. And if you have questions about what a team leader is, I can go into more detail about that as well if you're interested. But I know that, again, some of you may have participated in a Hill Day in the past with other organizations or under a bigger coalition, and that's great. But we do think that having our own Sarcoma Hill Day is very important to really get our messages, and as I mentioned, to build our Sarcoma champions on the Hill and to really start building that awareness and building the relationships. So we're looking, and also I wanted to add this because I saw someone else's question and it triggered in my mind. Jill, we're hosting it during July because it's Sarcoma Awareness Month. Is July the most optimal month to have a Hill Day? Not necessarily, because, and this year we do know some members may not be, but the staffers are always there, and the staffers are, you know, equally as important to have conversations with, to start moving things along and getting their member maybe on board with certain things. So, and this year, so we know this year there may not be many staffers on the Hill at this time, and that's okay. But we thought to launch this year would be important to do during July. So again, this is just the launch pad. This Hill Day in July is just a launch pad for a much larger effort to be involved in advocacy in sarcoma. So even if you can't make Hill Day, that is fine. And when you register, you can select whether you want to be in person or virtual also. So let me say that. When you register for Hill Day, if you want to participate, but you may not be able to make it to DC, but you'd at least like to start with potentially some virtual meetings, then you can mark that on the registration and we can work with you to make that happen. But also, if you're interested, make sure you're signed up for our advocacy, because we will start to email out and host other webinars for public policy issues. We also will host a webinar as we get in the survey results to have a longer discussion about the priorities as well. So there's going to be a lot of follow-on from this. So make sure that you stay connected if this is something that you're interested in being involved in.
Brandy, can you speak to the association with Senator Johnson?
The association with Senator Johnson is, we have an advocate in Wisconsin who's been working with Senator Johnson's office for quite some time. And as Senator Johnson's office had reached out to SFA to ask us to be involved with the resolution as well. So it started from an advocate reaching out and building a relationship with Senator Johnson's office and educating Senator Johnson about his wife, who ultimately passed away from sarcoma, had met with Senator Johnson's office a few times. And that is where the relationship began. So it started, and actually the advocate, they reach out to the advocate from Wisconsin, who really does a lot of work on the resolution with Senator Johnson's office. And if you go to our website and you look at Get Involved, we have a page on resolutions, and Brendan's story is there. And it explains further the relationship with Senator Johnson's office. Any other questions? I don't know if there are any in the chat or anything, Christy, or...
Yep, there are a few questions.
Okay.
So there's a question about how many are registered to go to Hill Day at this time. I think the question is more about like how many folks will be involved in total. So I think I'm not totally sure that's asking.
Yeah. We don't know at this point how many people are registered to go to Hill Day at this time, because we're just starting. We just opened registration maybe a week or two ago. So this is our first real information session. So we're getting people registering now. We'll know that better in a couple of weeks when we launch our first webinar for the people who have registered. So the next few webinars will only be for people who have registered for Hill Day. So if you're interested in, again, remember, you can also register for virtual and you'll get the same information. So if you're interested in participating, you can always register for virtual as well.
Brandy, about a question about, can written letters or sort of stories be included as part of advocacy efforts on the Hill, even if those folks cannot potentially travel?
Absolutely. If you are unable to travel and you still want to participate, that's why we say there may be a virtual option. Even if you can't meet virtually, you can still email your members. You can still make those connections and you can still share your story. So you don't have to just go on the Hill to be able to share your story or to make those connections. That is not a requirement. Does it help to meet face to face? Absolutely, it does. Is that an important part of it? Yes, but that's not the only part of it. So absolutely, and we will help you to do that as well. So if you register, you can let us know that, and we can help you do that as well. And again, remember, you'll be doing that throughout the year, because once you make these connections, it's not a one and done. It is a relationship that you will be building with these folks. So absolutely.
What kind of time commitment can folks expect for their Hill Day experience?
So usually it depends on how many meetings you have. It could be, if you have a lot of meetings, it could be all day. It also depends on what time you can get those meetings. So you may be able to get all of your meetings done in the morning time and then you're finished. It might be in the afternoon. You may have one in the morning and one in the afternoon. It just depends. But for those times where you have downtime, so say you have a meeting at 10 a.m. and then you have another one at 3, we're going to have a room, a location for people to, as a headquarters, where we will have a place for you to sit. We'll have snacks, we'll have food, we'll have all that kind of stuff for you to be able to have a landing point. If you just want to rest, if you're in between meetings, or you just want to connect with other people, we will have a landing point on the Hill for you as well. But it won't last more than a day, but it really just depends on your meetings, on how long the time commitment is. And if you want to attend the program as well.
Yeah, the earliest meetings sometimes start at 8 a.m. and the last one could be at 5. So that's the other thing to take into consideration if you only have a couple meetings in the morning, but there might be one in the afternoon. So there's usually some downtime in between that.
And you could also, I mean, you will be scheduling the meetings. Remember that. So we won't be scheduled. We can help you schedule the meetings, but if we helped you schedule them, we will be working closely with you. So you will be involved in selecting those times. You won't just be assigned times, because ideally we're helping you. We're giving you the tools you need to schedule the meeting so you can kind of manage your own schedule for the day. Any other questions, Christy?
There is one. I'm sort of addressing it right now in the chat, and I'm going to send it over. But the question is, my passion is pediatric sarcoma research. Will you have any asks for this population?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
absolutely, we will.
As everybody knows, obviously, the pediatric sarcoma population is a significant portion of the all sarcoma population. SFA always make sure to cover all sarcoma patients in all of our goals. So, but with the pediatric population being such a significant portion of that, then, you know, of course, we're going to consider the pediatric population in our asks as well.
And a lot of the coalitions that we're involved in are childhood cancer and pediatric. So absolutely, we will. And again, that is a great question too, because when it comes to our priorities, that we focus on as a community and as an organization, we want that to come from the community. So that one will rise to the top. But yes, we will have that ask as well. And if you're registered for Hill Day, that will be a conversation that we have in terms of what are our asks for the day, what are we discussing? And you're telling your personal story. And whatever that story is, that's the point, is you're telling your personal story. So you'll be able to educate members about your personal story as well, and the impact that your family has had because of sarcoma. Any last minute questions? I don't see any. I'm trying to think if there's any last minute information that we can share with you. I think the most important thing we can leave you with is if it's something that you think you may be interested in doing, then I would encourage you to register if you have not already. You can get more information and you can figure out how's best for you to participate or how you may be able to participate, because we do have options. What we're trying to do, what we want, our goal is, yes, to be in person because that has the greatest impact. But our bigger goal is to have as many people participate as possible. So if you're members of groups, of Facebook groups or whatever groups, and you want to share the information about Hill Day and offer people opportunity, or just to get involved in the advocacy efforts, even if they can't attend Hill Day, then they can still get involved in the advocacy efforts. As I said, we're going to be putting out a survey. We're going to have conversations. You'll be able to email, tell your story. There's a lot of different follow-on, not just Hill Day. There's going to be a lot of action happening throughout the year as we move forward as well. So there's going to be many ways for people to get involved. Hill Day is just a good way to really launch and get our name out there and get sarcoma out there and raise the awareness of our needs on the Hill. So any other questions?
How early should folks start making appointments?
So we're going to start making the appointments within the next couple of weeks. We are going to be scheduling a webinar. I think, Cheryl, we talked the first week in June.
Yeah, the first week in June. So yeah, it's an application that we're going to use. It's called Congress Plus, and it's where we create it's an online application where we import your email, and you're able to be scheduled with your member. And from there, we can manually change the time. And then when we have the webinar in June, we'll have a representative actually on from Congress Plus that will talk about it. We'll do a tutorial.
So we will be starting the first week in June to start making appointments.
Do spouses have to register as well?
I would say yes, because it helps us with the numbers, and also when we're putting teams together, that helps us. And also when we're scheduling meetings, because when we schedule the meetings and say we're sending 5 people to a meeting, the offices like to know that you're going to have 5 people, because it helps them to decide where are we going to actually have the meeting. If it's 1 or 2 people, they may be able to have it just in a quick office there. Sometimes they have to schedule the conference room within their offices or somewhere else. So it's good to know. Anyone that you may be bringing with you or will be participating in those meetings should absolutely register. All right. If there are no other questions,
you can always email us separately, programs@curesarcoma.org. You can always send us an email and we'll get to you that way as well. And there will be additional webinars coming with more information, as Brandy mentioned.
Yeah. And we so appreciate your time today and your interest in doing this. This is such an important aspect of not just raising awareness, but also increasing research funding, increasing access to treatment, and really amplifying the message and the needs for people affected by sarcoma. For so long, sarcoma has just been, because we have not as many people as some of the 4 big cancers diagnosed, then we don't always get the attention that we need. And I think this is a very good step in the process of raising the level of awareness and really starting to have a discussion about these are the issues that affect sarcoma patients that might be very different than other cancers. And we need resources as well. We need help as well, and we need access to treatments, and we need more. We need more and better treatment options. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to really kind of kickstart that, jump it off, and really start to do more for people affected by sarcoma. So I hope you can participate if you cannot be in person. And remember, if you're coming, we also have the Race to Cure Sarcoma at the Lincoln Memorial. on Saturday, so you can stay for that and participate. It was a great time. It was amazing last year, and so many people came that did not participate in the event, but were walking around the Lincoln Memorial and came up to us and said, my family member has sarcoma. And it just turned into such a great way, not only to raise awareness, but to bring together the community. So if you're able to participate and you can participate in the race as well, that would be fantastic. But if you're even interested, I would suggest that you register for Hill Day, because we will be sending out more information and hosting more webinars in that way. So, and again, if you want to share more information about Hill Day, we have information on our website, but if you want specific information from us that you might want to share with family, friends, your communities, your connections in sarcoma, you can just email programs@curesarcoma and we will get that. We will work with you to get you any information you need. So, all right, everyone. Well, we're ending a little early, so that's always nice. We're ending a little early. And again, any questions, any comment, programs@curesarcoma.org. Register. We'll be sending out more information. We'll also send out information via our newsletter. But to get the more intimate information about Hill Day and also be on the lookout for our public policy priority survey so you can participate and share your voice in that. And there will be follow-on. So thank you all so much for participating in today's webinar. And we look forward, hopefully, to see you on the next webinar as we start to plan our efforts for Hill Day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.